Welcome to the art exhibit and Meet the Artist event for Patricia Gee with the Virginia Beach Public Library. I'm your host, Sandy Hopkins, librarian with Programming and Community Outreach for the Virginia Beach Public Library, and our host, Robert Kennedy, Volunteer Art Gallery Coordinator for the Central Library in Virginia Beach, will introduce the artist.
Thanks, Sandy, and welcome to all. We're glad you joined us. We are happy to welcome artist Patricia Gee. Patricia is a self-taught photographer who has been a commercial photographer for major corporations such as Wells Fargo and Yamaha. She also works for nonprofit organizations such as AARP, and for 3 years has been photographing pets for the Virginia Beach SPCA, catalogs, newsletters, and Christmas cards. During her career, she has mastered new techniques and made new friends. With the COVID-related lockdown, Patricia ventured into her backyard, taking macro photographs of the plants and insects. The results are images of great beauty and interest, revealing a miniature world. To accomplish that, she had to step out of her comfort zone to overcome her fear of creepy crawly things. Taming negative thoughts and feelings is a trait she encourages. Patricia's show will be on display at the Central Library Art Gallery in Virginia Beach from November 1st through November 30th, 2022. Her reception, free and open to the public, will be Wednesday, November 2nd, 6 to 7:30 p.m. She is hoping to find an educational institution as a permanent home for the photographs in the show. If interested, please contact her. Thanks very much for joining us, Patricia.
Thank you, Robert, for introducing me. I'm Patricia Gee, and this is No Mask Required. Thank you for joining me. We will start on our first image, which is Spectacle Spider. This one actually started out, actually most of my images start out with plants. And this plant was, I was intrigued by it just because of this flow and the texture of the leaves. And without, I guess I didn't even see it until I started looking at my images as they were coming out. And I zoomed in and I found this little guy just sitting there staring at me. So I took the opportunity and started taking pictures of him. So I called him Spectacle Spider just because it looks like he's wearing spectacles, and he stood out beautifully with that almost like lime green color. So anyway, I thought it was just adorable, and yes, I let him out afterwards. And this one here, I was taking pictures of dandelions outside, which is not very easy because we have the weather and things start moving around, and when you're up close with macro, it's hard to focus on one little thing. But as I was taking pictures of this dandelion, and of course, again, I zoomed in to see my work and see what, if I can find something interesting, if I even got a good shot. And I ended up seeing these little bugs with these huge eyes, and I'm not sure if we're able to zoom in or not, but this little guy, there was just a bunch of them just crawling around, and every once in a while I noticed that they as well were staring right back at me. I find it a little hilarious. So yeah, when you least expect it, that's one of the things that I probably enjoy about macro is finding these little insects as I go through the images. And this one was pretty much the same image or the same flower, but I tried a different angle, and instead of a white background, I tried a flat black, which I have back here, which is usually what I use. It's cardboard or something matte finish. And so I ended up being able to take pictures of these little bugs that were actually all over the little dandelion. So I called it On Top of the World. And green slither, and the same. These are all in my backyard. This was the same plant that I had started out with, and I ended up seeing something else, and it was actually a green leaf. And this plant, I think, is called Fatsia japonica, and the leaves are huge. So as I'm taking pictures of the leaves, this little guy popped up. Of course, I pretty much jumped out of my skin, but I've had to compose myself and take advantage of this moment that there was this little creature who I knew would not hurt me, and I knew that it was there in its home. So I went back in there, and lo and behold, I was able to actually get a picture of this little guy, and I thought he just looked so cute. And okay, so praying purple mantis. What I try to do is I try to add, since a lot of the insects are pretty much camouflaged and they have the subtle colors to them, a lot of them. I try to add a different color in the background to hopefully bring some art, some light, something different in order to bring something interesting into the picture. But this little guy was at my doorstep, and went in and got some construction paper and picked out the purple. And he actually was very nice. And again, I'm totally, uncomfortable, and I'm sweating, and but at the same time, I can't stop looking at these little guys. They're just, living their lives and just going about their day. Okay, so flamenco beta is, we had a beta fish, and this was one of the, I think it was a cold day out, and decided I wanted to get an up close picture of this beta fish, which has this beautiful fanned out, we all know them for their fins that are just fan out just beautifully. But as I tried, and I tried many times to get a picture of his face, it just would not work. And so I concentrated on the fins. And again, I put the black behind a black cardboard behind him, and try to get as much as possible. And it reminded me of a flamenco dancer and the way they dance in their dress, how beautifully they move. Big appetite. This little guy was, I was taking a picture of a stick, which, well, you'll see later. And I, for some reason, they end up popping up. This little guy was just sitting there, minding his own business, having his, I guess, lunch. And I took the opportunity and snapped a few pictures of him. He was very fast, so it took me quite a while to get a picture of him up close. But I was just amazed that I think his fangs have a multicolored rainbow-like colors on his mustache. It looks like a mustache, I guess. But yeah, I later let him eat his lunch on his own, and thanked him for his time. Oh, and this caterpillar, she was beautiful. I don't know, he. King of the Garden, I called it, because it crawled up this flower. I had these flowers on my deck, just sitting there watching time go by, and this little thing was, noticed that it came up and was crawling around. So I dragged my lights and camera, and he just sat there at the top of this flower and just kind of looked around and enjoyed, I think he was enjoying some sunshine. Oh, I'm gonna take a nap. This little guy was, I think I was taking a picture of the plant, and I wanted to, because it had a lot of, oh, just oh gosh, what am I looking for? The way the plant was facing, and it had only 2 leaves on it. But as I picked it up and I was trying to compose it in a different way so that it would make a good composition, I found this little guy stuck on there. I tried to take him off and set him on a different plant, but he was stuck on there, and I figured he was taking a nap, and I thought I wouldn't bother him and just go ahead and finish off what I wanted to do, was to take a picture of that leaf. And there he stayed, taking a nap. Lime jello. Again, I'm taking pictures of flowers and plants and leaves, and this little guy was crawling along. I was very intrigued by it because as I would take a picture with the flash, the light seemed to go right through it. And there are, of course, I have tons of pictures of him. But this one, just because it showed the length of his body, and him crawling up into the next, I guess, his next meal. But I was just so intrigued of how translucent he was when I would come in and do a closer look at it. It was very interesting to me. And this was the same one that was having his lunch, the caterpillar, and it ended up, I guess he's a jumping spider. So he ended up being lost in my office, and I found him on this, I think it's a sea sponge of some type. And it just looked very beautiful like that, why not let him do what he's doing, and took advantage of him being on a really pretty sponge. Yeah, once again, I'm taking pictures of plants, and this little guy showed up, and he was very quick. He seemed to, I think I must have disturbed him. He probably was right underneath somewhere, and very, very rapidly, he came up, kind of like up against my camera, and very bravely, I guess he was shooing me away. But I thought, I called it I'm not a crab, just because, yeah, he looks like a crab, but it's a spider. And I don't think most of the times I don't even look to see what type of insect that they are. But I thought he just looked very, very interesting. Ant, not ant. I was taking pictures of this flower, and I wasn't sure how I wanted to compose it and make sure I was able to get the color, the green and the orange. It was so bright. So the white background or any other color, it didn't give it justice. So I went ahead and put a black cardboard behind it. And again, a little insect, a little ant comes up and is just very busily trying to find food. I'm not sure what it was doing, but it just took time to stop for a couple seconds and enough for me to take a nice little picture of them. It's not snow. This little guy was so tiny. And as I was taking a picture of that leaf there, I thought he was frozen because it would not move. And I was thinking it looks like it's dusted with snow. It was just the cutest little thing. But as I enlarged them and put them on, I think this is a 12 by 18, the white looks like snow, and I'm not sure why it would even look like that. And that's I think the interesting part of these things is that when they spark my interest, there's why are these insects like this, and why do they camouflage themselves in a certain way, which is very interesting. But I thought he was cute, so I kept them. Mistaken identity. I thought this was a ladybug, but what interested me on this one was the darker sections look like the actual bug, and I think it's a type of ladybug. But as you go down, you can see where the same little dots look like the surroundings of that little bug. But I'm not sure if it was for a reason or why they do that. But it camouflaged very nicely with the leaf, and I thought it was just, at first I thought it was a ladybug, so that's why I called it mistaken identity. Aromatherapy. This one I was taking pictures of the honeysuckle that we have in our backyard. And I couldn't find a way to picture this so that it would give it some kind of composition. But as I just when I get frustrated, I just kind of let things happen and take pictures of just what it is. And so as I took it into my computer and downloaded my images, I noticed that there was a small little spider sleeping on the leaf. And hopefully on the 12 by 18, you'll be able to see halfway down is a little spider just napping away. And I called it aromatherapy because I'm sure that's what helped them take a little nap, was the nice sweet smell of honeysuckle. And stick on a stick. I was taking pictures of the moss on the stick. And again, I'm not sure why. And it's, I'm sure it's because I take things from being outside and everything is alive, whether we see it or not. I mean, little bugs, insects, the trees with moss, or sometimes I don't even notice that there's even a cocoon somewhere. But this little guy ended up showing up, just crawling through as I was taking pictures of the moss. And if you see closely, yeah, that's 12 by 18, you'll notice that he seems to have moss on his skin, and he looks like a stick. It just blows me away how they camouflage. So yeah. Looking for blood. I was taking pictures of the red leaves, put my background, a black background on this red leaf because I thought it would just stand out beautifully. And as I zoomed in, I noticed this little guy staring right back at me. he didn't last very long, and so I was hoping to have been able to take a few more pictures of him so that I can get something clearer. But at the same time, I thought that it stood out, and it just made him look a little scary. And Lady Daredevil. Oh, I found this plant down the street. And so I think the city was getting ready to mow down this large bush that was there. And I was able to cut it before they got to it. And I brought it home and found several insects on there. Not only this ladybug, but a few ticks, which startled me. But this ladybug I thought was very interesting because you see all these thorns, and it wasn't easy to handle. So such a dainty little thing, which is a ladybug, was, I found it curious and interesting that it would be on such a dangerous plant. And orb weaver, it it's a very interesting spider. Um, it finished raining one day, and I went out just to see if I can take pictures of some spider webs with water on them. And I ended up finding this little guy, and he didn't last very long there, but he wasn't very patient with me. So this was the best thing that I could get, and I just thought it was very interesting how these little creatures can be so decorative and beautiful, colorful. Hope you enjoy it. And last but not least, crunchy skin. These guys, we find them all over our yard, and I finally was able to find a skin of a cicada just hanging on one of a bark of the tree. And to my surprise, I was able to find the actual cicada, I would say, a few inches above this one, but I just thought it looked so alien-like. And so actually the interesting part was I was able to get a light behind them and be able to get a little bit more texture out of the skin. So yeah, it's another one of those, for me, it's kind of uncomfortable feeling to look at it. But at the same time, I find them very amazing and interesting of how nature works.
Thanks very much, Patricia. Those are really gorgeous images and also fascinating. They make a great educational tool. And I'm curious how you first got interested in photography, when you first became serious about it.
It just seemed to be something that made me happy. I've done photography since I was young. But it was something that I would see something and I wanted to be able to take a good picture of it. And it was just something that I could not get out of my head. And then once I tried it over and over again to finally get the result that I wanted, it was very satisfying. So I figured might as well do something that I enjoy, and that's what I keep doing.
Absolutely. Well, and with great results. I'm curious also, and some of our viewers might be, what type of camera that you use and any other tools.
Sure. I use a Canon 5D Mark III. And for macro, I use the 100 millimeter macro. I try to use either a cardboard, either different colors, so that it is a matte finish, so that the light doesn't shine too brightly behind on the subjects and on the background. But I also use, as you see here, the flat black, a grid, or a speed light.
Okay. And you have a great eye for composition. And I'm wondering about how many photographs you take of a subject. Does it vary a lot? And how do you choose? Are you choosing primarily for the composition or?
Well, at the beginning, if it really depends. I will shoot about 100 to 200 images of one subject.
Wow.
And that is because since it's macro, there's not much depth of field. So I have to be very still or either put it on a tripod, my camera on a tripod. And then from there, I try to focus on different areas of the subject. And then I will stack the images to try to get it as sharp as possible. But as I'm shooting, and if things go well, then that's when I'm trying to do the composition at the same time. And I don't like to do Photoshop, but for the stacking, since there's really no other way to get a sharp picture of something so very close.
Sure.
I try to use up as much of my image on my camera as possible so that I don't have to crop or do anything else other than maybe sharpen with the stacking or adjust the coloring. And so, yeah.
Okay. And I love the serendipity that you go out into your garden or the neighborhood and you find you're looking at the plants and you
Right.
find all this wonderful, diverse natural world of the insects. And it's just really, again, it's really fascinating. It's beautiful, it's educational. And do you ever go for this project to other places or any idea that you might?
I have, well, besides my backyard, I have gone to the Seashore State Park and the Botanical Gardens. And actually, I get stopped many times by people as they walk by because they think I've lost something.
Oh, sure.
Because I'm in the bushes
Right.
and I'm trying to find something, or if I find something, I'm trying to,
Sure.
maneuver myself so that I'm not disturbing the plants or the
course.
vegetation of any type. And people come by like, oh my goodness, did you lose something? So yeah, it is funny in that way. But it is fun. And it's exhilarating just because I'm slowly getting to where I accept these little creatures. But at the same time, it takes me a few moments to collect myself and to say, okay, I'm a lot bigger than they are, and they won't do anything to me.
Well, that's really wonderful too, that you're overcoming your fears and your negative thoughts, etc., and forging ahead. That's really good characteristic too.
Right.
Uh, and I'm wondering also about the surface. Do you have a particular type of surface that you prefer for the photographs, the
I
finished photographs?
I haven't. That's a new area for me.
Okay.
These images are printed on PVC. I was able to have a chance to go through the printers, and they showed me around and showed me different things and different ways to print. And I wanted something that would last, because I'm hoping that these images will end up either in an educational setting. not just for adults, but for children. And I know how children are. I homeschooled for several years, and they like to touch things. And I know that when you go to an art prod or to an art show or some type, you can't touch anything. So, and I know that kids have this touching, and not that they're free for all to touch these images, but they get touched, or I don't want it to be ruined by anyone that would just have you know, be interested in it and go, wow, I want to, and just accidentally touch it. It would actually last on this PVC. So I was able to ask them what would last, what would make it so that I can just wipe lightly and it would not get ruined. So that was one of the reasons for the PVC, is that I don't want it to get ruined, and I don't want anyone to be put off by that, to that their child
That they might have ruined it, or
they might have ruined it or something.
Right.
So that was just my thought. And
Well, that was great. That was great that you explored that, and that they gave you all that information. Sounds like an excellent choice. And I really hope that an educational institution will take you up on it. I can imagine that this would really open a lot of conversation for
yeah, I would hope so.
children
I mean,
and
they
adults as well. So,
and
yeah,
I tried to make them I tried to pick out the ones that were colorful. Of course, it's hard to pick out several that I wanted to put on to print.
right.
But yeah, if like Create Big Defy is that on Instagram, I try to post as much as possible there. So you can also find other images of macro that I choose, that I post on there as well.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Well, again, Patricia, we thank you very much for joining us today. And we look forward to your show, which is at the Virginia Beach Central Library Art Gallery, November 1st through the 30th, and your reception Wednesday night, November 2nd, 6 to 7:30 p.m., free and open to the public. So we hope you all can join us, and certainly stop by and see Patricia's show. We'll be back next month with another great art show. Thanks very much.
Thank you.